This is part 2. There's that huge lump there. Here we've got our lovely shape. It just looks like a huge centipede there. It's amazing. Look at that. There it is again. Beautiful, isn't it? Here it seems like it's translucent at the end. That's why I thought that's unusual. That shape and all the structures there, it can't be just an accidental type of thing. Here's what I'm talking about. That shape there, it looks like tubular and it's translucent. Now, I've filmed quite a few of these translucent things now which will come up, and they're very unusual because I don't know why would they be there on the moon's surface, translucent tubes. That's a very interesting object, just hiding there in the shadow, or just could be obviously a natural formation. Again, these are 4000 6000 zoom, and they're the clearest I could probably capture these objects. They're just spectacular. Seems to be a large object there, and that seems to be an open, like a pillars or something. So it'll be that area there I'm looking at. Seems to be something there. Either it's very well camouflaged or it's hard to capture. See that object there? That up there, and everything looks like it's green or cream coloured. Here's that object again. It just looks like a huge. Look at that. It's just various cells to it and openings. There's that object again. It just looks like it's quite a few bits joined together, and there's openings on it. The way it reflected the sunlight produces beautiful colours there. Let's get a bit more on this one. It's just seems like that's starting to get a bit squarish, and there are open areas there. That's interesting. This is very interesting. Look at that. I don't know what to make out of it. That's like an open area there. There, that object's starting to look a bit more squarish, and an open square area there. I couldn't stop taking pictures. When I started this game, I was like, you've got to be kidding. What are these structures? I've never, ever seen these anywhere else in the world. Sometimes they become more of a pinky red color as well. So I'm not sure if that's the sunlight producing that, or obviously these have that type of shape to it. That's starting to look interesting there because it's just very bright white. That's where there's a round object, which is obviously a crater, but then it's very bright blue there in the crater. This is where I start to see tubes and things look like growths coming up, and all fantastic colours. I think I've put the filter on there just to highlight the object there, but they are the same colours that I took, obviously. So it looks as like there's tubular structures there and it's full of colour. These are interesting as well. Ridges, which could be composed of some sort of crystal. That area there was interesting. It just, certain areas just were like towers that lit up there and reflected sunlight. Obviously I'm concentrating on that thing there. I think it comes up. Now this is where things got interesting. Look at that. It seems to be, there's a back part of it. The top part of it looks like a honeycomb shape, and you got the front there. Just feels like it's composed of these big honeycomb shapes and tubes. It just can't be rock. Look at that. That's when I really felt, wow, what's happening here? Are we looking at some sort of growths there? Look at that. Just, that's fantastic. There it is again. So I'm just trying to use the best shot and the best color on. There's that object again with all the openings. This is where I've seen a few of these. They're very bright white from top. They look like rocks, but they got these specific type of openings and shapes there. Look at that. That's interesting. Especially that sort of formation, then it seems like an entrance. There it is again. Whatever they are, even if they're mountains or rocks or formations, they're spectacular. They're huge. A few kilometers, 10, 15. That first one was about 100 kilometers in series 1. And that object I haven't seen after that. I haven't ever caught it after that. So I'm not sure why it wouldn't appear in any other Terminator images. And why would it be that large? And again, near that perfect round, a deep opening. This gets interesting. It just seems like there's mountains or towers right there, and you're just catching the light on top of them. Look at that. That is spectacular. Now this is where it seems like a very crystalline surface. It's very bright white there. Do these things remind you of any of the moon pictures where there's perfect hills with hardly any strange shapes on them? This is interesting. It shows to be flat, and yet it's like an object there with side openings on the surface. Here we start to get these pink colours coming on these objects. This is interesting. Look at that beautiful pink shape on top and that a bulb coming off it. green and pink. If I didn't catch my own camera, I obviously wouldn't think this is possible. The shapes, the objects there are just beyond what I've seen anywhere. The landscape, the cliffs, the colours that are just coming out of these objects. The shapes are very fascinating. That one there as well. This one was very, very rounded, and it produced that shadow there. Here's that strange object we saw before that seemed like it was turning its head or something. Look right there, remember? We had that object before, which looked like a huge centipede or whatever. That's the sort of shape it had. And it had that thing at the end that just turned around and had that round object there. Well, there it is again, isn't it? It seems to have that huge object on top of it. That's the same object, or either they're similar ones. I don't know what I can think of that picture. And this time it's pointing straight to the front rather than turned around. And you've got little processes coming off it, and that one has a process there as well. It's a larger object. I'm not sure what to say about this. Isn't that weird? I'm totally stumped to see that shape again that looks like a head and a symmetrical object right there, and this thing coming down the side. There it is again. Trying to use a filter on it. And there it is again. So I'll take time to sort of look at that because it's got that shape on it that I've seen before. And here are these wonderful crystal-like colours coming up. So just try to go through them. Here's that object again. This is interesting because it's actually flat. It's got openings on the side. And from the top it would be very camouflaged. That's magnificent. This is interesting because you've got these openings there. This is a pretty clear shot. So it seems though it's like a huge structure. It's got these openings on the side. This is where we get interesting. Look at that picture there. These objects look perfectly flat, camouflage from top, and they've got these side openings on them. Or it's just obviously they could be natural structures. I'm not trying to jump, but they are very, very particular. Look at that. If I wanted camouflage objects, I'd do it exactly the same way, especially that there. You can just see how it rises up above the ground, but it's got that perfectly rounded shape to it. There it is there again. The object looks as though it's perfectly camouflaged, but it's got like a rounded shape and the sides there, which look like little openings there. Again, they just could be normal cliff type structures that we have on Earth, but here's where we see some more fantastic shapes popping up. This is where we've got interesting things popping up here as well. That's a definite object, squarish. Then you've got this darker greyish object right there. Again, very well camouflaged. Not sure it's on purpose or that's the type of object it is. A rounded object right there. Here's where we got that very strange honeycomb type of shape coming in again. Remember that one? And it had that object going to the side. Fantastic. Whatever it is, I don't know. Here's one other view of it. So it's like a hilly area that has all these strange honeycomb shapes to it. It looks organic. It looks as though it's alive rather than just a piece of rock. Here we go again. We see the ridges there, everything. So these are 4,000 to 6,000 zoom. So they can't be just accidental blurs or anything like that. It's got pink and all sorts of interesting light colours to it. Now the rest of the surface is bright white, so this was right on the edge. And that's probably the reason I caught it. I only get these colours and shapes right on the terminator edge where the bright white moon meets the shadow. And that's where you get colours and everything else that comes through. And further behind that is obviously too dark. Again, we come to this, which was again right on top of the moon, right there on the pole. I assume uppermost is a north. I'm in Sydney. Or could it be south to those people on the upper hemisphere? I'm not sure. Here we got that shape there. Look at it. It's like perfectly elevated. It's got like little openings on the side. Look like, I shouldn't say windows, but it's just so bizarre. Here we've got lovely bright blue coming up. Beautiful. So the rest is bright white, so it's probably a full moon. So we've got these very crystal looking objects there. Grey and white. There's that grey-white type object. Now we come against something unusual. So we're looking at what look like mountains that come up, and all of a sudden we've got these shapes on them. It could be a few kilometers high. And here are these type of tubular organic type things, crystalline. Very bright, as though it's a crystalline type translucent object. Here we've got that mountain shape, and white platforms, and here they are again. Sometimes the picture's orangey browns. That's the shadow of the moon produces that colour. And here we've got an object there that just seems like it's elevated, and it's got straight walls down the side and openings around the edge of it. Now I've seen this before. It's got like a dome on top of it. It's an unusual rock surface. Just enlarge that. So I just press the filter on that one to bring up some of the structures of it. It looks tubular. It looks organic rather than just normal rock surfaces. That's what intrigues me. Quite a few of these things are actually tubular. This one intrigues me a lot. It's a very unusual one because it's got straight edges and the top is curved. It's a very good picture, that one. This as well, because it shows it's a structure, but obviously it's got that sort of opening on that side. And it seems to blend in as though it's camouflaged. I've come across quite a few of these that seem to blend into the surface as though it's some type of camouflage of these structures, or they could be just obviously normal structures. This is unusual because it's got that shape on there. They're all unusual, so I'm not sure when to stop to analyze any further. Here's where we got a shape that's popped up a few times. It looks organic. It's got that rib shape to it. There. And you'll see that pop up again. Here's something that was, it seems to be floating above the surface. So that's where it was. That's the terminator line just coming across there. Now this is further back. So it seems to be floating. Now it is to me it looks like a definite structure. When I enlarge it, it looks as like there's a brown rod coming from there. It is elliptoid but wide enough so you can see the width of it. It's got the blue tubes and rods coming from the back. I haven't ever seen anything like this. There it is again. That's a filter that I applied to brighten it, and there seems to be something coming from the front, and then there's bright blue spheres around it. Have I caught a UFO? It's just too bright to be anything else. Is it part of a cliff that's curved over and caught some of the sunlight? You see that brown thing just curving down there, and those blue rods coming out of it. It's just too bright to be an accidental part of a cliff that's been caught after the shadow. It's a brighter than anything there at that stage. It's fantastic. Look at that. That's one of those really rare ones that I'm thinking, well, what have I caught there? This one other bizarre object just comes up vertically, and it seems to be purple type structure. Here are the objects. That one seems to be floating on top. It's one of these bizarre ones I'm not sure what to make out of it. It seems to be the same height as the one before that was floating there. It isn't connected to anything. Here are those strange tubular shapes that are popping up, crisscrossing at that right angle and that round object right there. Seems to be coming out of there. I'm not sure where it is. Don't analyze it further. This sort of caught very interesting cliffs and straight objects like there, and then that object right on top of it like a dome, and that thing floating there. Right there, look at that. It's on its own, it seems independent. It doesn't seem to be connected to anything. That's one of these rare ones you sort of think, well, what is it? Now down there you'll see things are not just normal. You've got like objects there that go straight up and entrances on the side and stuff, especially that one there. Then you've got this bizarre object that seems to be floating right on top. See how that looks like a dome? I probably shouldn't have put that there, but it seems to be constructed, and that seems to be floating. Here again we see these strange tubes. And these are all captured on my camera. They're all about 4 to 6,000 zoom. Here we got that cliff and that a dome on top that I was telling you about. The other picture, we haven't got my picture of the camera right there, but it seems these cliff surfaces have openings on the side. And obviously that's right there in that spot. I've enlarged it. Another interesting shape. It's got like an opening, squarish, and that bizarre thing is just popping up. There's a triangular shape there. There's that thing going straight up. Here are those objects on top again. It looks white, camouflage, but it looks like there's openings down the bottom. This starts to trigger important questions. Look at that shape there. It's perfectly square. You've got that side opening there as well. These tall objects with openings on the side, similar to an insect nest type of structure. Here we've got something strange. Just keep an eye on that object there. It seems to be rising up and it's got side processes on it. Look at that. Right there. It's translucent. I've caught it again. Not sure to make out. There it is there. Translucent, vertically coming up around the area, then two side processes off it, again translucent. This is a very, very nice shape and colour. This seems to be on top and it's producing its own shadow, as though there's a ledge underneath it. Interesting because there's zigzag shapes in this one. They're squarish and zigzag, and then they rise straight up. This one's nice, because you can see the tubular processes coming down the side into the openings there. Seems though there's an opening and tubular process coming down. Here we've got something very interesting. We've got cliff faces, and then that object sitting right on top of that platform we've seen before, coming straight up, and openings on the side there. This is it's the clearest I can probably get that picture there. There was that object which we thought was translucent. It was coming up. It's got a rounded dark dome and two openings on the side. Now I've applied a filter to it to get a dome right there and those two openings and that translucent shape. There we go again. This is the object that seems to be floating right on top of the surface, so it's captured right on there, which is on the poles of the moon. It's unusual because we've got like a squarish type of object there. It seems to be floating right on top. This looks crystalline, translucent. There's that object that seemed to have those two openings on top. We've got a hilly surface there, very bright white, and that object's sitting on top of that platform. Again, we've got these objects there with openings on the side. There's a straight line there. Here we've got those cliffs coming up again. There's that object on top of that one. Rounded shape, then very unusual shapes. There's again that object that seems to be coming up that had the two openings on the side.